So I just went down to this little mosque one day and was like, yeah, I want to take my shahada. And there was no one there because I didn't know what the prayer times were or anything. But the muadhin there was like, yeah, let's just...
That calls the prayer.
Yeah. Was like, let's just do it now. You might go and come back later. You might get hit by a car or whatever. Like, let's do it.
Like, you see that statement?
Let's do it now.
I think the whole world says that, isn't it? Yeah. Take it today, bro.
Yeah.
You might die if you don't take it today. I think the whole world says that statement.
Seriously?
Yeah. Literally, every time you hear about someone becoming a Muslim, it's like, my friend came to me and told me, bro, if you don't take it today, you know, you might never come back.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's like, I get the angle that people come from, but sometimes I've had other people that say it puts a bit of pressure.
Yeah, you don't want to push. But I came willing and ready, you know, so I think he saw a good opportunity.
Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakumullah khair for coming. And did you just come back from Zanzibar? You've been back for a while?
No, we went in August. So I've been back now for a couple of months.
Okay, how was
Started
it?
my studies with Sheikh.
Okay.
It was great. It was honestly an amazing place to visit. I used to live there, but now it was the first time for me to go back as a Muslim.
Okay.
So that was an extra special.
So
all these masjids that I walked past when I was a non-Muslim, now, you know, can pop in and pray and whatever. So it was really, really nice to go back.
Let's start on that. So you became a Muslim. What is your journey to being a Muslim?
Honestly, it was such a huge shock for all my friends and family. Because before I was a real atheist, like a big atheist.
When you say about real atheist, in what sense?
Like Richard Dawkins level, just like thinking all religion was stupid and everything.
Okay.
Basically, I grew up in like a Christian home, but I never liked it. I never resonated with it. I used to hate having to go to church and everything. My mum's from a very religious Christian family, and I since left it. So I think there was a lot of, let's say, emotional things behind the scenes that sort of prompted a quite severe depart from religion. And yeah.
But did they practice Christianity now that you're a Muslim? Because you know, Isa alayhi salam, he's in the Quran. We understand how he used to live his life from our perspective, obviously. Did they practice Christianity like that? Or was it how some might see us today as just Sundays they'll go to church, but say Monday to Saturday, there is no praying, there is no supplications, there is no charity.
Not really, to be fair, because like we would pray every night and stuff. And my mum came from the Salvation Army, and their whole thing is like charity, basically. Her parents were both ministers in the Salvation Army, my grandparents. So they were probably a bit more trying to practice. And actually, the reason why they left the church in the end was because they didn't like the way it was done there. Essentially, I think they didn't really feel like they were practicing what they were preaching. It was quite cliquey, exclusionary. So anyway, that's how I sort of became atheist, let's say. And then I think that sort of softened as I got older, you know, as things naturally kind of do. And then...
Sorry, on that though, was there like a particular time you just said, I'm an atheist, or are you talking more, you just started to say, I don't believe in anything?
Do you know, the whole time when I was a kid being dragged to church, I thought, I don't believe in God. This is ridiculous. Like, as a kid, I literally never believed in it. My best mate, one of my best mates when I was a kid was Sikh. And I used to go to my mum and say, well, he thinks his God's real. You think your God is real. Like, and as a kid, if people aren't well equipped to answer those questions, the doubt sort of grows. And then I think you really run away from it all. But yeah, so I think that sort of softened as I grew older. And one of the main things, I think, that firstly there was a friend wanted me to set me up with one of her friends, and that sister was like, oh no, you know, I'm Muslim, like I want to get married to a Muslim, I'm not out here. Yeah. Okay. She wanted to. So my friend, non-Muslim, had a Muslim friend that she thought we'd get on well. Okay. But that friend said, oh, you know, I'm Muslim, I'm not going to just, you know, go out with anybody. I want to get married to a Muslim, you know. Okay. So I thought at that point I was moving to Kenya for my studies. So that was kind of in the back of my mind, let's say. And actually part of it was moving to Kenya and being more around nature. That made me think, you know, like there's on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro, everything is so fertile there. And sort of being around nature and seeing like how nature was actually sort of intended to be, that's what really opened my eyes to there being a creator, let's say. Anyway, then because of this interaction that I'd had, and previous time in Zanzibar and whatnot, where everyone's Muslim, I think Islam was what I was more gravitating towards. Also, people like Malcolm X and stuff, you know, the politics of a lot of Muslims also made me have a more of an affinity, let's say, for Islam, I think. So then while I was there, I was learning more about it, reading more about it.
In Kenya or Zanzibar now?
In Kenya, this was now. So as a non-Muslim, this is like 2.5 years ago. And I was reading Al-Ghazali, Deliverance from Error, is it? And I quite enjoyed that because
It's a random book to get though.
The thing is, people told me
Like
that
most people will say, I read the Quran,
philosophy.
It's because it's more accessible for me coming from an education background where I always had this sort of intellectual curiosity. He deals with this like relationship between religion and philosophy in quite an accessible and also quite honest and sort of like fun way. When you read the books, it's quite engaging. Anyway, then there was a mosque near where I was living in Kenya. So one day, Ramadan was around the corner. So this was like February 2022. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to do it, I might as well start with a bang for Ramadan so that I can really get involved in the culture. So I've been reading more about it. I was fairly reconciled with the idea of believing in one God at this point. And from what I already knew about Christianity, from my background there, none of that massively resonated with me. You know, like the Bible is not the word of God, as it were. You know, it's been translated, retranslated, whatever you want to say. So, yeah, from reading more about Islam, that was really what I wanted to lean towards. So I just went down to this little mosque one day and was like, yeah, I want to take my Shahada. And there was no one there because I didn't know what the prayer times were or anything. But the muadhin there was like, yeah, let's just...
That calls the prayer.
Yeah. Was like, let's just do it now. You might go and come back later. You might get hit by a car or whatever. Like, let's do it.
Like, you see that statement?
Let's do it now.
I think the whole world says that, isn't it? Take it today, bro.
Yeah.
You might die if you don't take it today. I think the whole world says that statement.
Seriously?
Yeah. Literally, every time you hear about someone becoming a Muslim, it's like, my friend came to me and told me, bro, if you don't take it today, you know, you might never come back.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's like, I get the angle that people come from, but sometimes I've had other people that say it puts a bit of pressure.
Yeah, you don't want to push. But I came willing and ready, you know, so I think he saw a good opportunity. So yeah, just did it there with just like one random uncle was there. And then that was then so important. Like with me now moving to Lewisham, that mosque was then made me feel like I really had a home and a community there because Ramadan came around like, let's say a month later, I'd already learnt the basics of how to pray. Now you can go somewhere like a few times every day, break your fast with all the uncles and everything. There, it's like here, they'll put on a little spread for you when you go down. So yeah, it was a really great way to get involved. And so yeah, partly having some interest in Islam anyway, partly the being around nature, I'd say those are the main two things that gave me like the real leap of faith, let's say.
What about like the negative things you hear? Wasn't you like conscious? Obviously you hear a lot of like, you know, terrorism, you hear of a lot of like Islam is more subjugating towards women. There's all these kind of, didn't you have that kind of maybe pushback?
Okay, on the terrorism stuff, no, because I know that's completely politically motivated. I've always been massively anti-establishment or whatever you want to call it anyway. So I've never believed anything about terrorism or terror threat. Even if we look at today, who's being called terrorists and who's not being called terrorists, like we know, you know, the side of justice ultimately. So that was never a thing. As for the stuff about, oh, is it sexist or whatnot? Of course, those things did come into my head, and even to an extent today they do. But I think what you have to remember is that, or at least this is the way I think about it to myself, is here in the West, the fundamental unit of existence is the individual. So you can't understand, to them essentially it seems like subjugation towards women because you're saying that a woman can't do exactly the same things in exactly the same circumstances as what a man can do. But actually, if you reframe your understanding of society as like, no, this is community, this is for the love of Allah, or whatever you want to think of it as, and you let go of this like very desperate attachment to individualism, I think you stop framing it as like subjugation and you start thinking of it as the benefits of it, and you know why we're instructed to live this way. Obviously the benefits are there for all to see when you actually get involved with it. So no, of course, and people ask me now, I'm still friends, all my friends are, the majority of my friends are still non-Muslim and are shocked and ask me these kinds of questions.
That's usually
so I grapple with it a lot. but I just, try and think it through and listen a bit. Also, one thing that I did like in particular was a few months ago, Imam Ashraf did 2 khutbahs on, firstly on the rights of a husband and then of the wife. And he was saying, like, don't think of it in terms of like, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's more like, this is your primary responsibility. So like, it's not like the man has to be the breadwinner and the woman has to stay at home. It's like, no, the primary responsibility of the man is to be the breadwinner and the woman to raise the family. But if you come to some sort of mutual understanding, you know, maybe my circumstances right now, I need the wife to pitch in a bit financially, that's fine. It's not like women can't work or anything like that. It's more just like, okay, this is what the responsibilities rather
these
than
are
like
your primary roles, but it doesn't mean
exactly
a woman can't step in to help, and vice versa. It doesn't mean, say a woman gives birth, a man can't step in to start, you know, washing the dishes or helping out because the woman can't do that particular job at that particular time.
Exactly.
So yeah, it is a kind of a glove. And obviously there's even a verse in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hunna libasun wa antum libasun lahun, that you're a clothing for them and they're a clothing for you. And that's what a clothing is. A clothing, when you put a clothing, you're covering someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it's cold, wherever it is.
Yeah.
When you look at that analogy of what clothing actually does, is to cover something. So when someone is failing in something, not that they want to fail in it, but you cover them in their shortcomings, and vice versa. The man covers the woman in her shortcomings.
Yeah.
And that's what a marriage should be. But you do get today, obviously, with the whole red pill movement, blue pill, all these different movements where men want to be, this is what a man is, and a man doesn't go in the kitchen and he doesn't do this. And the woman, you know what, I don't stay at home and I have to make money for myself and be independent. And then so you have two, you know, factors of people that's never really going to work because that's not how society was meant to be in the first place. If you take away the internet years and you take away the car years and you go back to many years ago where there was no cars, no internet, and you had to rely on each other, then by default it worked because I relied on you to save me and you relied on her to cook the food. And do you get what I'm trying to say?
Definitely. And that's again like the individualism of it. Like everyone thinks, no, I need to do this for myself. And it really shouldn't be that way. And those movements, like the red pill movement, they're born out of a tension in society where men are being told they have to be this, but then there's no place in society for us to actually be this. So we reach for these extremes. You know, there's no like, well, there's far fewer, let's say, you know, decent, traditionally masculine jobs in this country for men to do. They feel emasculated, so they go out and find these like extreme manifestations of masculinity to try and feel like men. And that's what then ends up in things like this red pill movement, which is obviously, okay, to my understanding, completely contrary to especially the sunnah of how to treat people.
Some parts of it, I think, Imam, go on.
I was going to say in terms of, you know, a lot of non-Muslim societies, it's always a confrontation to something. So men against women, women against men, rich against poor, poor against rich, black against white, white against black. And Islam, you complement. You one another. And also the thing that, you know, Abdul Latif mentioned and you mentioned, you know, what Imam Ashraf mentioned, Islam gives you the guidelines. It doesn't mean that always it's going to be like this. This is your guideline as a man, it's a guideline and responsibility as a woman. But sometimes, as he mentioned, it overlaps. And when it overlaps, you become a bit more understanding and you become a bit more tolerant and you become a bit more helpful. So I think that's key. The other thing, I think I like what you mentioned, because somebody asked me a question and he said, a brother from Africa, he said, do you think kids having separate rooms good? Like this kid's got one, that kid's got one.
Like his kids at home? As in his children, his own kids,
So I said, I think it's good.
That they have separate rooms.
You know, like, so
they can have their own space,
kind of space and another boy. And what did he say? What do you think he said? No. What do you think? He said no.
Our culture is to sleep in the same room.
He said, look, it teaches selfishness. So what he said, look, from his country, he's from East Africa, he said, like, the tradition is the boys sleep in one room and the girls. But when they sleep in one room,
implement that.
When they sleep in one room, they learn to share. Those kids will be sharing clothes, trainers, you know. And I said, you know what, you have a point. Because what happens here is nafsi. Hey, these are my, you know, I know you're my brother, but don't touch my trainers.
Exactly.
Don't touch my trousers. Don't touch my tracksuit. So, you know, you're right. That kind of like sometimes in non-Muslim countries, that culture gets developed. The other thing I'm keen on, because I think you mentioned this to me a while back. I might be mistaken, but I'm sure you mentioned this to me. One of the reasons of you becoming a Muslim was the good treatment of Muslims in Kenya. Yeah, am I correct? Did you
definitely. Especially
please speak about that.
That was in Zanzibar. The first time when I lived there, I was 19 or 20. I lived there for 6 months with a Muslim family, and they
with a Muslim family.
So it's like a homestay. So you live with a family.
Okay, yes, okay.
So
like not a B. What's the other one in England that you have? Like it's not Airbnb, but like bread and breakfast. No.
It's literally just like their house. Okay. So we just me and one of the other people that was on the course lived there, and
I don't get it quietly. 1 second.
Like an exchange student.
So basically, just imagine, also when I was a kid as a Christian, we always used to have people from around the world. They come for, let's say, a placement at our church, and they're a lodger with me and my family for free. That's just something that the family would do. So that was also part of it. I think when I was a kid, I was always having people from other countries living with us. So it also opened my mind a little bit. But no, so basically, you're a family, you've got a spare room, and you just host someone who's come to live in that country or whatever.
To do with language, though. Because let's say you're coming from a country that doesn't speak English. They'll want you to stay with an English family.
Yeah.
To learn the language and so on.
Yeah, so for me, I was there because I was studying Swahili. And so it was like a family friend of my teacher.
Oh, okay.
We just went to go and live with her family.
Okay, got
so there was like four or five kids and the
so
mum.
it wasn't like a business where someone was running like a bread and breakfast.
No.
Okay.
No. Like we paid her a bit to contribute to like the running of the house or whatever, but no, it wasn't like
business mind, mashallah. Everything's business, bro.
But no, it wasn't like a fully fledged business.
Yeah, let me start there.
Buy a townhouse.
So you want to make jokes, Sheikh?
True.
Okay. I was just trying to understand it because when you said I was living with it, I'm thinking bread and breakfast. Yeah, I can understand, but just randomly.
No. So it was. I think she's either the cousin or the auntie of one of the lecturers here that I had in the UK, who's also Muslim.
Okay, so the treatment. So what happened from that family? I mean, what did you see?
Honestly, it was just really nice. I think so. In general, living with them was really nice because I wasn't getting up to pray Fajr, but I'd get up and breakfast's already made. They've been up for like 3 hours by the time I'm rolling out of bed. Have breakfast with them, chat. They had 4 kids who were like similar ages, so they'd then take us around the island in the daytime. And I think you just get a feeling for the sort of culture there is very communal. They have all the houses, so all the infrastructure there was built by Oman when Oman ruled over Zanzibar, and all the houses have like a bench built onto the outside. You've probably seen a bench built onto the outside of the house. Okay. So everyone's just sat in these little narrow streets on this bench that's built onto every single house, just chatting, drinking coffee. Then they go off to do the prayers or whatever. They come back, they're chatting. Very, very communal, let's say, way of life. So yeah, really enjoyed my time there. Felt very at home and well treated. And I think that just gave me a bit of exposure. And again, that was before you became... Yeah, this was years before. This is when I was like 19, 20. I'm 29 now. I took my Shahada when I was 27. So this was a long while before. And I think it was sort of almost demystifying, let's say, especially with what you said about, you hear all these stereotypes about what Muslims are like in the West. I went over there. For starters, a lot of people don't even realise there's Muslims in Africa. If you're like from proper white parts of the UK, like where I'm from, you think of Muslims, the only Muslim communities there's probably South Asian. Yeah, Pakistan. You don't know that there's Africans that are Muslim. So already that was a new experience. And you would argue, actually, the majority of Africa is Muslim. Yeah, 100%. Probably at least half, Yeah. Like the whole northern and east some of the and west. Yeah. The whole of the east, basically, you got Somalia, you got Kenya, there's a majority of it. The middle is probably the only area. But even, you'd be surprised, Congo, there's a huge Muslim population because Oman, the trading caravans went all the way into the interior of Africa and established loads and loads of Muslim communities. I think I do feel that, like you mentioned about Abdul Latif's question about, women and how this make it seem that they're suppressed or oppressed and so on, an agenda behind it. Yeah. No, when you go to Zanzibar or you go to any Muslim country and you see these ladies are running businesses. Exactly. They're running shops. They're out and about. Akhi Sheikh, in Somalia, you've probably classed the women as masculine. Seriously. No, not in a rude way, but I'm saying in the mindset of how we think in the West that a woman doesn't, whatever. But the majority of women out there, when I was out there for the little week that I was out there, even though I was raised there, I went back maybe a couple of years ago just to visit quickly. A lot of the women out there
business owners.
Yeah.
Little front shops. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Doing their thing. So
they do everything.
when you hear this mindset of, oh, you know, the Muslim culture doesn't allow women to work, it's like, where do you get this from?
Yeah. Completely.
Where do you get this premise from? But when you obviously look at the history of the Western narrative that they've been pushing from years back with the movies, that's where it comes from.
Of course.
All these movies about Arab men are like this and Muslims are like that and they're violent. We don't realize when we're watching these movies and we think it's entertainment.
It's indoctrinating us,
100%. It's in your subconscious because you haven't even traveled there, like you said. You haven't even gone there. You don't even know some of these countries.
It's like it's complete, Orientalism, Edward Said.
Yeah,
it's all that. It's all Orientalism. And when I lived there, the woman that I lived with, she was a single mother. She'd had a divorce. People probably don't even think that you can get a divorce as a Muslim if you come from a non-Muslim background. She had X number of businesses. She's running a family. So she's like kind of original girl boss. What we think about today.
And also, sorry, I was reading a book. So this person was a minister in Tanzania, Muslim minister.
Yeah.
He became a minister of education. And he says in his book, he said, look, I noticed that Muslims are not going into university. They're not succeeding in job opportunities and so on. So he said, I wanted one change in the examination. Names should not be written down. It should be just a number. The examiner needs to mark the number. Okay, it's going to be 244. There's going to be no.
Yeah.
When he changed that in the first year, the following year, the Muslims passing started to increase.
Yeah.
A high percentage.
Well, because of all the discrimination.
Yeah. So
who was marking it?
No, so it's examiners now, isn't it? But they don't know who this is.
No, but who was marking it in the first place?
Same examiners, but now they have a name. Okay, it's going to be Jonathan. Yeah, it's going to be Muhammad or Abdurrahman or Fatima. They're seeing the Muslim name. So Africa, and people say this, he said, you can go to most African countries and see a heavy presence of Islam. Tanzania is an example. Tanzania, I think officially they say it's like 35, 40%.
Yeah.
People say it's 80%.
Yeah.
It's Muslims, mosques everywhere.
Yeah.
Kenya, they would say average, they would say the percentage 20%. But you go to Kenya and all you're seeing is Muslims and Messiahs. It's probably 50%.
Yeah.
So there is an agenda concerning Africa.
Definitely.
Yeah. One is Muslims shouldn't have authority.
Yeah.
Lower their number or make it seem. Secondly, when the colonizers came in, the education, it was through the churches.
Yeah.
It was the missionaries that first came in. Yeah, so there's Christians got the education, Muslims studying in the masjid. They got the qualifications through these schools. They're the ones who became the leaders. So definitely an agenda to kind of like not make Islam look prevalent in Africa.
Yeah. Or just even like what we were talking about the other day. Everyone that you speak to, okay, not everyone, that's an exaggeration, but a lot of people, they're thinking when they're coming to finish their studies, we've got a few people in our class that are coming to finish their A-levels right now. The first thought is always, can I get apprenticeship or a job abroad or something like that? But if you think about actually trying to establish Islam in a new place, you need like the lecturers and the teachers and people like that to actually hang around and maybe not go for the most glamorous or best paid job, but the jobs that actually really have a massive impact on people's lives. Like, for example, right now I teach at a primary school. When the kids found out I was Muslim, the engagement, even the non-Muslim kids, it went through the roof because they're all so excited to see a Muslim man teaching. For starters, I'm the only man really teaching at the school. Okay, there's two of us. And for seconds, it's a very Muslim area. It's in Woolwich. Lots of Muslims there. And so all the kids now are suddenly like gone from not paying attention or ever listening to now it feels, even though I'm still teaching the same boring maths, somehow maybe it's a bit more relatable for them or something. So, those jobs are still really important.
So just on that, so Zanzibar, good experience with the Muslims.
Sorry, yeah.
When you came to Kenya now, it is later on, I'm assuming 24, 25, you came to Kenya. How old were you when you came to Kenya?
26, I think,
26. Yeah. Muslims in Kenya, was it the same experience?
No, completely different because so Zanzibar is basically 100% Muslim. Yeah. Kenya is, again, it's like, as you've described, on the face of it, you think it's Christian, even though there's a lot of Muslims around. And the Muslims are, let's say, also a bit more segregated because there's a lot of racism towards Somalis in Kenya. So they probably keep themselves to themselves a bit more. So in Kenya, it's on the coast where the historically Muslim population is. So Nairobi's the middle of the country. Historically, let's say more Christian, but who really knows? So there's not as many Muslims about. But certainly once I got involved with that mosque and going regularly, that's when I really started to feel like a sense of community and belonging. And, you know, can go out on the street and feel safe. You see loads of people that you meet and that you know, and chat to. Sorry, I've sort of lost the thread of the question there.
Impact on Muslims,
yeah. So it was great. And it was
random
really
question
great.
though, but was you the only white Muslim there?
I was the only white
I'm thinking
Muslim.
Africa, obviously people just think black people there.
Yeah, I was the only white Muslim, but there's very diverse population in general because there's lots of Asians there. There's also more and more like Arabs and people from elsewhere.
Okay.
Because Kenya's like a lot of development hotspot. Randomly, the particular community where I lived, there was also like a very big, I think they were a development company, like a property development company, a Turkish one. They had a little mosque nearby as well. So there was, I was probably the first white English revert who'd taken a shahada at that mosque, but they were definitely used to internationals because it's a very international city.
Okay.
And I was living in one of the, let's say, more affluent areas where they've got a lot of people. If you're passing through there for business, that might be one of the places you would stay.
But remember, I mean, look, in especially the coast, what you mentioned, the Kenyan coast, so Mombasa, Malindi, Lamu, all of this was under Oman.
Yeah.
So the influence on the coast all the way down to Mozambique, the coast of Mozambique, it's kind of like an Islamic influence.
Yeah.
Look at the garments they wear. Look at the hats they wear.
Yeah.
Swahili comes from the Arabic word sahil, which means coast.
Coast, yeah.
So these are the coastal people that's been mixing with the Arabs and the language. Okay, you know when you say, for example, what's the word? The days of the week, they're kind of like Arabic.
Yeah. Al-Khamis.
Al-Khamis. Jum'ah is Jum'ah.
Ijuma, yeah. Ijuma.
You know, like for example, hello, habari yako, coming from khabar.
Yeah.
It's news.
Everything is Arabic.
You know, thank you is what was it?
Okay, some people say asante, what's that in Arabic?
Ahsanta.
Yeah, and also shukran, obviously everyone says.
Shukran is there as well.
Okay.
But no, there's so many.
It's got a high influence of Arabic words.
About 40% of Swahili vocabulary is from Arabic because for 1,000 years they've been trading with the coast. Yeah. So the Persians, the Shirazis, they arrived in, I think, about 1100 to Pemba, which is the North Island of Zanzibar. But slowly and slowly, more and more trade was being done between the Gulf, South Asia, and Africa. People think that it's the British Empire that brought Indians to East Africa. Actually, trade along the across the Indian Ocean has been going on for nearly 1,000 years. There's praise poetry written in Swahili, but in the Arabic script from, I think, the 1700s.
Swahili initially was in Arabic.
Exactly, like Hausa. And all these African languages was originally written in the Ajami script, we call it, for the African languages.
I mean, look, you know the name, look, you think of Mogadishu. Yeah. The actual origin of it is Maq'ad, seat of Shah. Shah in Persian means what? Like the king or the prince.
Oh,
Maq'ad
really?
of Shah.
Wow.
That's where the name's Mozambique. It's coming from road. Musa bin Baik. So it's kind of like,
Imam is a historian on the side, mate. He's an Imam one day, he's a historian another day, yeah?
They two go hand in hand, I suppose, in many ways.
Mashallah, I didn't know about the Mogadishu part though.
Yeah,
but also East Africa, because that's where you were born as well.
Yeah, he was born there, mashallah. Yeah, he's Kenyan, really. That's he doesn't say he's Pakistani or anything.
Yeah.
I'm Kenyan.
Yeah.
British now, mate.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously we've gone through Zanzibar, we've gone through Kenya. You became a Muslim in Kenya now, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, so February 22, so coming up to 2 years ago.
Okay, so... But
oh, no, it must have been 23.
But the experiences you had in Kenya are way before that.
No. So now I lived in Kenya when I lived in Zanzibar when I was like 19, 20, let's say. Now I went back from September 22 to June 23. So when I was like 26, 27, 28, whatever, however old I was. That's when I then took my Shahada when I was living there in February of 2023. Lived there until probably June or something. So I went through my first Ramadan there. That was like April time there. Then I moved back here, moved to Lewisham Park in October, got married just in August, just gone. Now living still very, very locally.
So what have you found, obviously now that you're a Muslim, what is like maybe things that you wouldn't have thought of before, now that you're in Islam, you're finding out, or maybe you knew things like what is it in Islam now that you're maybe intrigued about or whatever?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question a lot this week because I assumed we would talk about this sort of thing. And the first thing is they're not even cliches because they're true. It's the same thing that every Reaver, let's say, comes is about the community. And this is exactly what I've said a few times now. You know, the individualism of Western society, you come to the masjid and you see that's completely gone. Everyone greets each other for the most part. Everyone is very friendly and warm to each other. I know probably maybe us white reverts in particular maybe get some slightly special treatment because we're still a bit of, you know, uniqueness. A bit of an oddity, let's say. But still, for the most part, everyone seems very respectful and warm and loving to each other. So that is a main thing. I think another thing that's very helpful is a sort of, let's say, moral clarity that comes with religion. Because, you know, again, in the West, it's like
religion
everything...
or Islam? Because then Christianity, people say it's still a religion, but they allow a lot of things nowadays.
Which, yeah, even the Bible says you can't. I think maybe I'll take a step back and just say religion for now. For me, it's obviously Islam, but I can understand how it would apply to other people. I think when you look at an irreligious society like the UK, everything is up for sale, everything is up for grabs, including morality. And one of the sort of divide and conquer tactics, let's say, of the British Empire, but just the elites in general, is this kind of moral relativism. We always have to look at both sides. And it's like now you can look at both sides. Obviously, I'm referencing something particular in global politics right now. You can look at both sides and you can say that, okay, we abhor violence, you know, against anyone. But at the same time, there's one side that is quite clearly on the side of justice and one that is quite clearly on the side of injustice. 100%. And so...
whereas you're saying the Western world kind of sits on the fence, if not even probably leaning more towards...
It's more just like, okay, my non-Muslim friends... They obviously are mostly very vocally supporting Palestine. But when you are backed by a conviction that there's actually a God and that this is the word of God and this is what it tells you to do and this is how it relates to justice in today's world, I think without wanting to downplay any of their conviction, because many of them are very active, you know, and doing direct action in support of Palestine, which is great. But I think, you know, I really feel like my position is supported by the direct word of God.
Like there's a clear moral standard.
A clear moral compass. And ultimately I might get sidetracked or waylaid by this like moral relativism where I have to think about the other person's feelings. But at the end of the day, no, I believe that this is the side of justice. No matter how they might try and spin it, how much they might try and gaslight us, we know that ours is the side of justice and theirs is the side of injustice.
I would add to that, I mean, our side of justice is actually justice for them too.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think we discussed in the last podcast. I think Abdul Latif mentioned it. I forget the names, but it's like those models. And I think the father was...
Hadid.
Oh, the Hadid, yeah, Bella Hadid, yeah.
The father was relating that, you know, in the West Bank, basically Jewish families came in and they came as refugees to his parents' house. And the parents said, come in, you're welcome.
Yeah.
They said, look, we're going for a little break somewhere to meet some of our relatives. We'll be back in a month's time or something like this. They came back and they said, look, this is our house. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So for us, look, it's justice for all.
Yeah.
And good treatment for all, because our moral compass coming from Revelation is to be just to all.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's not the case for others.
Yeah, I think the thing to kind of add, though, sometimes when we're talking about them, you do kind of have to separate between the elite type of people and the common man. I think you do get a lot of common people that will side with that which is clear cut and justice.
Yeah.
It might just not be vocal like what the elite want you to think is vocal. Because remember, when we talk about elite, we're talking about people that have power.
Yeah, that run the media, yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say to you? So they will amplify something that isn't even the norm and try and make it look like it's the norm. Like they would easily try to, whether it's through movies and all of this kind of stuff.
It's a news report, and you see how they've reported these riots in Amsterdam the other day, how they've spun them to make it look like these harmless football fans were like, you know, maliciously attacked by these Moroccan taxi drivers. It's like, no, these lot came around chanting all this horrible racist filth about Palestinians, and some locals took exception to that.
So that's the point that you mentioned in terms of very important. The masses, and you're seeing that with Palestine, whether it's in France, I don't know which match was it. I think it was a match in France. With
Yeah, France-Israel was the other night.
No,
Is that
but
what
I think
we're
this was,
talking
so probably there, I didn't see the footage, but I think it was the other team,
about? Oh, PSG, yeah, had the big Palestine banner, yeah.
That's the supporters.
Yeah.
Not all of them are Muslims.
Yeah.
So even the masses, I remember the elite, sometimes there is no religion.
Yeah.
Their deen is oppression
Yeah.
and injustice and
Yeah.
tyranny. That's what it is. So, but the masses, as you said, they see, because they're fitra, there is an element of kind of like what your natural disposition towards goodness and justice. So they see it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think there was a good, maybe a clip I saw on social media somewhere, and the guy was making a very good point. Forgot his name, but he made a logical point. He said, when you look at movies, we always support the underdog.
Yeah.
All movies, name any movie,
Yeah.
we always support the underdog, the one that's been squished, the one that has less numbers, whether it's 300, the movie 300.
Yeah.
There's 300 against how many people? You're not supporting the one that's got the millions of an army killing the 300. You're supporting the one that has 300.
Yeah.
But then now you have a situation where you have a large army, has everything, and you have a small group, and we're somehow meant to support the bigger army. Does that make sense? So it's crazy how they will, in movies, naturally will make movies that align with that methodology.
The rebels.
But then now we're meant to hate the people that are meant to be the underdogs.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And I thought that was a very good point that he made, man.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a touching. It's touching for us. We connect with them as Muslims. Most Palestinians are Muslims. We also connect through siding with you, as you said, the underdog and the oppressed. But saying this, I think I mentioned in one of the Friday summits, victory. Number one, the 43,000 plus shuhada. But look at Palestine. It's on the heart. It's in the hearts and minds of
everyone.
the globe.
Yeah, everyone.
University lecturers and professors in America, here, students, protests, millions of people marching for them. So yeah, I'm there. Tom's been a part of the kind of like protests as well, especially in the London ones.
MashaAllah. I think a good kind of story that links to that is like Surah Al-Buruj.
Oh yeah.
When Allah talks about the young boy and the kid that you had a you had a better sheikh. Before you said Abdul Latif, that was a da'if hadith. You give the story.
You know why? Because you already done the tafsir of the libas and clothes. No laughing. You already started your tafsir, so carry on, Ahi.
No, you finish it up.
Carry on.
I don't want to make it.
I think people know, and he knows the story. The boy and the king.
Maybe there's other people that don't know the story.
King kind of like wanted him killed. Is him studying with a teacher and a worshipper and then a sorcerer. And then the teacher and the monk is telling him, look, don't study sorcery, but study this, and you will see one day which one is more kind of like powerful and what carries weight. So a day comes where the king is kind of like, because he's done some miraculous things, the king wants to get him killed. He says, fine, but gather all the people together and let them kind of like see me getting killed. Yeah. So, he gets him killed, and he says, but before you do this, just, say in the name of the Lord of this boy. The king does this. And when the people see this, they say, look, you know what? Because he gets kind of like saved. We believe in the Lord of this boy. Yeah. But then he digs a ditch, kind of like all those that have believed, kind of like gets them killed. But the moral is what he's trying to say. In that tragedy, disaster, people believed and had faith, and that's the biggest victory. Yeah. And that's what's happening. A lot of the sisters here have taken shahada in the last year because of what's happening in Gaza and Palestine. Okay, we want to be Muslims because we see the resilience of the Palestinian people. Yeah. So this is where the victory comes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where, if we want to take it back to Islam and a way of life, of living, is that when you have such certainty in hereafter, and I think that's a very key point, Imam. When you really do believe that once I die one day, there is a hereafter. This isn't it for us. Yeah. It gives you that contentment to live with the issues of today. Yeah. When you don't have that, there is a hereafter, you think this is the only life. Yeah. So I need to make all the money. I need to, be hedonistic. And one guy I started to like is this guy, man. What's his name? I know, because you're the young kid. You know about all of these people. What's Brazil? He done a thing with, you do know, man. He done a video with, what's his name?
You're not Dan Bilzerian.
Yes. Yes, bro. I started to like this dude, bro. Seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Because originally he was a hedonistic dude. He's talking about he had 9 women in a day and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But he realized there was no contentment in that. Money, everything. Do you know what I mean? That is what in a smaller version, that's what we live in the Western world. In a smaller version. He obviously lived in a higher version, but in a smaller version, we do live this hedonistic. I need to make a lot of money. I need to have the best cars. I need to travel all the time. I need to just enjoy life. And when you have people that are going through what they're going through in Gaza and they're getting bombed and killed, to the point I don't even like to watch Instagram.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Because I can't help you. I can't do anything. Nothing can happen for you. Yeah. So me seeing all these dead people, I can't. So I don't even watch it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But when you see, the men that come through this and the women coming through this and say, you know what, inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, we come from God, we're going to return to God. That, like we just made the story, is what's making a lot of people think about Islam. Because they think, why would someone still be talking about God when all your families are dead?
Yeah.
Because over here, we'll be talking about, why did God do this to us? That would be the narrative over here. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But because they have that certainty in the hereafter and they really do believe in their way of life, that's what gives them that izzah, we will say in Arabic, or that pride to keep going forward regardless of everything that's going around them. Because something similar happened in Israel. The airport was filled up. People was flying out.
Everyone was leaving,
Do you know what I mean? They're not fighting for that land like it's theirs. Yeah. They're keeping it moving.
Yeah.
But these people, they ain't got nothing. They can't just fly out. They're still staying, akhi.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're having to be told to leave their area.
Yeah.
These ones, they're flying. So it kind of shows you who the real winners are, regardless of how we might see it as they're dying every day. That's the real winners. And for us that believe in the hereafter, inshallah, there's justice, akhi. Because there's no way on earth that people can do so much evil and then pass away and just turn into dust.
Yeah.
That will just make this whole equilibrium of life not even worth it.
True.
Does that make sense? Like to have such injustice, people just die and wither away. It doesn't make sense. Because that means all of us then can just be like that.
And that's what you've touched on there is one of the main contradictions that I think a lot of people struggle with in Christianity, which is that in Christianity, at least what we're taught, is that God is loving. So then when you have to explain why all these horrible things happen to people, you're like, wait, how is God loving if he also does X, Y, and Z to good people? Whereas in Islam, obviously, we believe that this dunya is a test, really, for the next life. So it's also much more, let's say, consistent. It's very hard to poke holes in Islam, I think, as a religion.
Yeah.
Whereas Christianity, there's quite a lot of holes and...
Yeah, well, if he's loving, how is he this? Whereas in Islam, we do believe he's loving, but at the same time, he's justice.
It's just, exactly. It's just rather than just like...
It's just loving.
What does loving even mean when they talk about a loving God when you're seeing all this, that and the other? And...
But there is a word for Allah in the Quran, Al-Wadud, no?
Al-Wadud, the loving, yeah.
So there is the action
yeah.
that he's a loving creator.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, he also has the characteristics of a just person. So like a parent, you can love your kid, but I'm still going to be just enough to say, son, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And if you do that, this is the punishment for that. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but there's justice involved in life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The Prophet ﷺ said, if it was my own daughter who stole, I would cut off her hand. Not because I'm saying that
or something, I don't love her.
Yeah, exactly. It's justice.
Yeah.
Even my own daughter, if she done that. So I'm not just saying to you, I'm going to do that to you.
Yeah.
But if anyone else does what I think is wrong, I'm going to be just in my manner towards everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas the other methodology is, well, I'm loving, turn your cheek. It does get, a bit techie.
Exactly.
A bit techie still. But moving on, because we spent a long time on...
Journey to Islam.
Yeah, Journey to Islam. And which was interesting. That's why we're kind of on it. But so since you've been a Muslim, you're saying obviously the brotherhood, because we've moved from brotherhood to so many different topics.
Yeah.
Brotherhood, what else kind of...
Brotherhood, and the other thing that I mentioned was the sort of moral clarity. Definitely.
How you finding praying 5 times a day?
Hard. Yeah, definitely hard.
Waking up 5:30 in the morning. It's kind of easier now because it's winter, to be fair. But summertime it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock.
It's a lot easier now, definitely.
The difficulty now is Dhuhr, Asr and Maghrib.
I'm right next to each other.
Workplace.
No, especially for me, like working at a school, I can't just dip out. So often I'm having to make them up a little bit later in the day, which is challenging.
Okay, yeah, because you've got like 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yeah. But no, it's a lot of it's challenging, leaving behind the delights of this world that, you know, all the non-Muslims enjoy.
Yeah.
All my friends are still
Are there things
non-Muslim.
you miss? No, I'm not saying to expose your sins or anything, but are there things that
I don't mind talking about that kind of stuff.
you kind of miss? Because you're not doing it anyway, so you can maybe you know, pork. I don't know.
No, you know, I was vegetarian anyway, so pork was easy to give up.
Okay.
Alcohol obviously is the main one in this country. Our culture is very much built around alcohol. So you know,
ain't it just same as drinking mojito?
Going to the pub and having an orange juice doesn't scratch the itch quite as well. So those things are hard to give up. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. You know, when you don't believe that there's something worth depriving yourself for, you do everything to your heart's content. And you know, their whole saying, the whole mantra of Gen Z is like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Whereas we've got maybe a bit more foresight. We're thinking, actually, no, the next life is the important one. Let me be a bit more disciplined here.
I remember one brother, I asked him, I said, look, what's the biggest test and the thing that you used to enjoy the most before Islam? Have a guess.
Bacon wrap or
something. Bacon.
Yeah.
Bacon. He goes, yeah, man.
Bacon for a lot of.
I was like, what?
For me, when I ate meat,
turkey rashes, man. What God, man? Ain't turkey rashes like the same? No?
Nah.
They got one of the brothers over there. He's like, nah. If I could, I would. Is it really that nice, this bacon thing? Yeah, maybe there's a halal version,
sausages, especially pork sausages and bacon. Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to eat so much of that and loved it.
Okay,
but no, that was easy for me to leave behind.
Yeah,
it's crazy because
you're going to a calf.
Yeah,
lawyer gets on the pork sausages.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say it's crazy because it might be just a mindset thing. Because when I was young and I came here, 8-9 years old, and I went to school, I didn't know about pork.
Yeah.
So the person doesn't know halal or not.
Yeah.
Just giving that food to me. And I tasted this kind of ring-looking thing. Remember in school, I don't know what it used to be called, with sizzler or...
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure.
Like, it used to be like a ring type of... I don't know.
Like a curly sausage.
Yeah.
Cumberland
I tasted
sausage.
it and I was like... what is this, bro? And when I went home, my dad was like, yeah, that's pork.
Yeah.
So I just think it is probably the culture and what you're raised in rather than... You know, that is
Tom's fitra was changing, man. You kept in the fitra. Tom's natural disposition was changing, man.
That's what it is, actually. You got me? I think it's what you're raised upon, and it might be hard, but after a while, it does get easier.
It does get easier. Like for me now, you know, it's
you don't look over the corner and just think.
No, not at all. Not at all. For me, it's become a lot easier. Alhamdulillah, to just say no to things and still be friends with all the same friends. They've all been so accepting. My grandma actually cried with happiness when she heard I became a Muslim because she's the one who I said was the minister in the Salvation Army. Okay. And to her, me becoming a Muslim is 1 billion times better than being an atheist.
Yeah.
So she's just like, as long as you believe there's a God, then I'm happy. She was honestly so happy. And she, you know, says, oh, I've spent my whole life praying for you that you'll find God. And God, obviously it's not exactly what maybe she imagined, but still. So now it's time to flip it on her and try and bring her down to the masjid one day.
She's already one step there.
Yeah.
The fact that she's a religious person, do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
I do think sometimes it is easier, hopefully. Some people do say it's harder to convert. I don't like using that word convert, but to guide or to give guidance to people that are already on a religion because they might be so staunch in their way. But I also do think it's kind of halfway there, the fact that you already believe in it.
It can go both ways.
It's just about conversating about, okay, well, is Islam the last religion and is there things that we can come to common terms between each other? And
even like the fact that Muslims believe in Jesus and all the prophets, peace be upon them, like people don't realize that. And I think that's partly what you've mentioned, Sheikh, that it's like a suppression of certain things that they don't want people to find out because they don't want us to see our commonality is. Yeah.
You know, that was pushed. Muslims are the Antichrist.
Yeah, exactly.
That we hate Christianity.
Yeah, Isa alayhi salam. Is in our Quran. His mother's got a chapter, Maryam alayhi salam.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think there's only one group that's really the Antichrist, but that's another topic there. But moving swiftly forward, and cool. So that's your Islam period. I think we kind of touched on your youth. So where you touched on you're a teacher. How did you get to being a teacher now?
So honestly, right now, my main goal at the moment is I'm trying to finish my PhD. So I'm doing a PhD in linguistics, and I'm trying to finish that. At the moment, I'm working teaching at a primary school. It's like I'm teaching the lessons, but it's like covering the regular teachers while they're doing their planning time. So it's always at the same school, which is nice. I get to know all the kids. But I'm trying to finish that, finish the PhD ASAP. And then after that, who knows? The sad thing at the
You're a
moment,
lecturer in Cambridge as well. Why don't you mention? Yeah,
yeah, I also
Cambridge
do some
University.
lecturing right now at Cambridge. That's quite part time at the moment, but I've done various lecturing gigs over the time. Like
When
at
you do
SOAS.
lecturing though, what are you lecturing? What topics?
So at the moment, right now, I'm lecturing in Swahili, but before I was doing like more general like language and culture, a bit of linguistic stuff when I was at SOAS. But the Swahili stuff now is good, but it's a bit temporary. It's for one of my friends from Pemba, from Tanzania, who is the regular teacher there. He's sadly been bereaved, so he's gone back to look after his dad and things like that.
He's fluent in Swahili.
But anyway, so that's what I'm doing right now. And then eventually I'm not too sure, because I'd like to stay in academia if possible as a lecturer, but there just really aren't any jobs around. And if you want to get a job, you probably need to do a few of these postdocs, which will be like a 1, 2, 3 year contract to sort of boost your status. And the issue is, my age, I've just got married, I'm wanting to start a family. I don't want to be worried about the next contract in a year's time or whatever. So what I'm really thinking of right now is properly training to be a teacher, probably secondary. Because I do really enjoy the buzz of working at a school. It's a really fun job. You're always interacting with people.
It's one of the most important jobs, man.
Exactly. You get to make a good impression, inspire the next generation, inshallah.
Sorry, Tom, just so your degree, what was your degree in?
So my first degree, when I first came to uni, I was doing Swahili with development studies.
Always something to do with Swahili and language.
Yeah, so the thing is, I was originally going to do Arabic, I'm French, and then I didn't get the grades to go to UCL where I was supposed to do the French, so I was just going to go to SOAS. And then I did this volunteering project in Burkina Faso for 3 months.
Okay.
Got interested a bit more in Africa in general, even though obviously it's the other side.
Yeah.
And in like development work. So then I thought, okay, let me do a language. I loved studying languages. I thought, let me do a language that's going to maybe help the development stuff. When I seen Swahili, it says you get to do a year abroad in Zanzibar. And I'd never heard of Zanzibar. I put it in Google Images, seen all the nice beaches. I thought, okay, let me go there. So honestly, it was almost like a happy accident, a happy coincidence that I chose Swahili. Then SOAS is such a great university because it's the class sizes are generally, depending on the subject, quite small. So the people there really believed in me. Okay. They encouraged me to do my master's in linguistics. And then from there, I got a scholarship to do my PhD. The first 3 years of the PhD were fully funded. So they pay your fees and they give you a small salary to live off.
Sure.
Now I'm into the 4th year. I've not quite finished the PhD and the funding sadly has run out. So that's why I'm now working doing the teaching stuff while I finish it. But that's been great, to be honest, because it gives you a bit of get up and go. You know, you go up and feel like you're actually contributing to society rather than just stuck in my office.
Typing away.
Yeah. So that's great.
So the trajectory looks more towards becoming a teacher in the
Probably. I'll always hold out a bit of hope to get into academia, you know, if the right project or the right job came around. But I'm not like betting the house on it. Obviously, I'm not betting anything now, but I'm not
it could be
banking on it.
It could be abroad. You could be a lecturer in a university abroad.
I do think about that, and it's something that we've spoken about before. But I'm ultimately a bit of like a home bird. Let's say I've lived abroad for about 2 years now, and I feel like I've sort of been there and done it. So I like being near to home. I like the community here, especially right here in Lewisham. You know, I really like where my life is at the moment, even though there's a few challenges with finishing the studies and whatnot. I feel like generally it's in a good place. So possibly I wouldn't rule it out, but like if I come to having kids, I'd want them to be close to my family, to my wife's family. The abroad lifestyle, having been there and done it a little bit, it just doesn't feel quite like there's not as much of a pull. I want to be able to go and watch Nottingham Forest every weekend, you know, nip back on the train, So
you're from Nottingham originally?
Yeah, I'm from Nottingham,
I was thinking you had a bit of an accent.
Yeah. No, I'm from Nottingham. And actually, do you know what's so crazy to bring back the Islamic journey? Where I live, at the end of my road, literally less than 100 meters from my house in Nottingham, there's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful church. For all my life, they've been trying to open a mosque in the suburb where I grew up in Nottingham. And there's always been massive community backlash against it. Anyway, about 6 months ago, or maybe slightly more actually, it was open during Ramadan, so maybe the start of this year, this church has fallen into disuse because, you know, churches in this country, they're basically mostly just full of old people. And as the old people are dying off, the churches suddenly are going out of use. So anyway, very, very quietly, without any fuss, because they're not needed to build a new building, a local family or trust, I don't know exactly who they are, has managed to take over this really beautiful old like Victorian era church and turn it into a mosque and refurbish it. So now here I'm a stone's throw from a mosque. When I go back and visit my parents, there's one there as well, which is amazing to see how it's growing. You know, we say that all churches in the UK are either turning into pubs or mosques.
Is that what they say now?
Either a Wetherspoons pub or a mosque, because it's massively
declining.
It's massively,
Christianity in itself is declining,
especially outside of the, let's say, immigrant communities that obviously are still very active. But you know, that sort of traditional English, I think religion is looked down on a lot in general. All religions are looked down on a lot by sort of secular English white society.
I would say it's kind of having a reverse now, though. You do see more and more people, or maybe I'm just in a vacuum of maybe people just talking about religion, but online and that you do kind of see a people coming back to some form of, whether they call it spirituality.
Definitely. People crave it.
I mean, in terms, you know, the last sentence, I think there's definitely increase in atheism and rejection of religions.
Yeah.
Except Islam.
Okay.
Meaning a lot of people are looking into Islam and accepting Islam, and that's on the increase. But other religions, it's just like, because people have realized also, you know, things are never consistent. Everything's always changing. Something impermissible 10 years ago, today's permissible. Is this really the religion of God?
And there's a lot of abuses as well.
Yeah.
You think what a lot of stereotypes about churches are that they just like fleece poor communities. Like, you work hard for your job, you come round, you're expected to, you know, put X number of quids into the pot, and then you find out that the priest or the vicar is doing
It's a business.
what now exactly. It can be run as a business, which is, and we even see now the Archbishop of Canterbury is now to resign, and he's sort of made his name as being this like really woke Archbishop. Turns out he's covered up all these horrible abuses 10 years ago. He's been massively silent on Palestine, and it's Christians also being affected in Palestine, and he's not got anything to say. So this is again where you start to see these hypocrisies. Not that I'm saying Muslims are immune from being hypocrites, but I think at least in this country, the church has sort of run out of good faith with a lot of sort of white communities, basically.
Yeah.
Remember, I mean, it's, you know, going back to Palestine again, Isa alayhi salam is from Palestine.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Bethlehem, that's where the West Bank.
Yeah.
That's where he was
I
born.
didn't know it was in the West Bank.
Yeah.
What they kind of like.
That's why they want to annex it now, though. You know.
Yeah.
Look at that. But
annex it.
And so there's a Christian. Actually, they've destroyed one of the oldest churches in Gaza. Destroyed, bombed.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is like what Tom is mentioning. Okay, they're your Christian brethren,
Brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
you know, what, no stance even for them.
No.
Yeah, look at that.
Only for the Zionists.
Yeah, that's also, you have to separate between elites who are just after money, power, and the common man. I think the common man is kind of clear that they're on that side.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, cool. So just to wrap up, because we've kind of hit our 1 hour and what we like to stick to. Been a Muslim now 2 years.
Yeah.
You've traveled, maybe touch on traveling, because I think traveling is kind of something you kind of do. And obviously Islamically as well, Allah says, you know what, travel the world to kind of see what's happened to those before you.
Yeah.
In the sense that it also gives you guidance by traveling. How do you maybe give advice to other people about traveling and things like that, and what it done for you?
Yeah, honestly, I've had so many incredible experiences traveling. I feel like it's completely made me partly the person who I am today. I think it doesn't even really have to be traveling, as in you don't need to necessarily go to a different country. But like what I mentioned earlier, when I was a kid, we always had lodgers from other parts of the world staying with us for a few months at a time. So I think already that sort of opened my
Just seeing
mind.
different people.
So it's like, obviously we can't all afford to go on, you know, nice holidays every now and then. But even just try and open yourself to new experiences, even go and try a different restaurant in North London rather than South London or whatever it is. You know, just try and put yourself out there as much as you can. Try and be as open as you can.
Do you think, I think that's a question, do you think the onus is on the people coming to a country to assimilate, or is it from the people that live in a country to welcome people? Because I think that's a question that they kind of push now. As it is, I would say it's the people in a country to welcome people in and try to make the people feel comfortable, and not the people that have come to the country to straight away be assimilated into a society. That's kind of my
Definitely.
angle.
No, I say both. But
No, but I'm saying if you was to choose who has more priority to kind of,
But also, you've got to
do you
think.
get what I mean? Like,
There's a
I'm not saying
difference.
it's a matter of like both of them are not important. Of course, if I go to another man's country, I should have respect and ethics. That goes without saying. But I'm saying if you was to put both of them together, which one is more important? Because when you watch the news, they would put the onus solely on the people coming, whether we're talking about immigrants, whether we're talking about people that have just come to the country for even business or whatever, for them to speak the English language and to learn the culture of the West and all this kind of stuff. And the people that live here to basically do nothing.
But that's, I think, integration and assimilation are two very different
100%.
things. They want to push assimilation. They want you to let go of your culture, let go of your religion, let go of your language, and come and just become like any other British citizen.
That's also important to mention. That's like a far right narrative. Remember?
Yeah.
But
Whereas
the far right
integration,
majority also.
no, that's true.
Yeah.
But integration, I would actually say Lewisham Mosque is like the perfect example of integration, because everyone's got a good viewpoint of it or knows someone there. My neighbour, when I was living, around the corner, obviously we don't want to get into specifics, she was a random sort of old white woman. And I used to get a bit shy if I was walking back in my thobe thinking, oh, what's she going to think? She's like, do you go to the mosque there? I was like, yeah. She's like, I love Imam Shakil. He knows all my kids, all my grandkids and all this.
Cup of teas with them and everything.
Exactly. So none of them are expecting you to abandon your religion. They just want you to be a good neighbour. It's like even with the parking thing that you have to mention every week.
100%, yeah.
That's not an example of good integration when you're coming and making a nuisance for all the people that live here. But that's not to say that you can't practice your religion. It's just to say do it in a respectful way to the place that's accommodating.
I would say in terms of language. Let's say you've gone to Kenya because it was under Britain, so English is widely spoken. But you go to a country, the basic thing is learn the language of that country.
Yeah.
That's quite important. So there's got to be, his point, effort.
Yeah.
Maybe more so in my opinion anyway, from those that are coming in to the host country to learn.
Yeah?
I feel that.
There can be one thing I would actually like to say in general in the mosque. It would be nice to have some sort of poster up or something. Is what I've seen a lot in Kenya and also people in this country who haven't been taught their, let's say, mother tongue, is really detrimental psychologically and emotionally. So we need to encourage people, teach your kids English, but still teach them their language and their culture
100%.
so that they have a sense of self. And also, don't buy into this myth that if they know their mother tongue, they're going to be like stunted at school. That's a complete monolingual bias myth. Like you can speak many languages and be great.
More languages. Yeah. Do better.
Cognitively, have a lot of great cognitive skills.
Yeah.
Let me push you back though, Dean-wise, Mr. Sheikh. When the
Muhajirin and Ansar.
he knows where I'm going. He knows where I'm going. Huh? What are you gonna say now, homie?
Jokes, man.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say there?
Carry on.
Because the Ansar, the Prophet ﷺ, he lived in Medina.
Yeah.
And he told the Medinian people to open up their arms, and I don't know. I just want to know what the answer is to that one.
Nah, look, Akhi, you know what? That is a perfect example.
I think that's what you call a bazing. So all I'm saying is the Prophet ﷺ obviously sided more with the people that lived there to help the ones that came. But obviously, ultimately, the one who came also said, look,
okay, that's it.
Thank you for that, but I'm going to do more.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
They want to help. Firstly, remember, it's a Muslim society. So that's a bit different.
Yeah.
Everybody's Muslim. So you got the Islamic angle. We're talking about non-Muslim country.
Yeah, of course.
The other angle is what you mentioned. They want to help. What are the ones saying on this side?
Yeah.
We appreciate your help, but we're going to do our things.
Yeah.
There's no entitlement.
Yeah.
There's no kind of lack of gratitude.
Yeah.
It's that's what I'm saying. Actually, it's both. What I said,
it is.
Both sides. At the end of the day, look, it's humanity. Your people.
But also, if you think why the people that have come to this country it's because what of the British have done in their country. So I think that's why people feel a bit of responsibility. But then the people in this country, in the poorer communities, you know, the real Brexit communities, they feel like, well, we never saw the benefits of this colonialism that made this country so rich, even though they did, whether they know it or not, but they didn't maybe as overtly as the rich elites in the cities.
And
So
also the bulk,
why are we letting them in?
Bulk of immigrants.
yeah,
And they're hardworking. Go to the hospital, NHS, nurses.
Yeah, they add more than they take.
100%.
definitely, of course.
Yeah, restaurants, businesses.
Yeah,
Yeah, cuisine. You
Everything.
know, people have come and brought their different, so they bring so much. And one thing I wanted to mention is like a counselor. It's more to do with the masjid. So it's, I hope he doesn't say, no, I never said this. But it's James Walsh, he's a Lucian counselor. So he was at the mosque with some other counselors. And then as we were discussing, he said, you know what? The mosque makes, he said, I live opposite the mosque. The mosque makes us feel safe. Yeah,
Lucian one or
Lucian,
somewhere else?
about Lucian, we just lived opposite the mosque. And then he said, you know the safest time? The safest time? No, Ramadan nights.
Okay.
yeah, because everyone's out and
Ramadan nights,
about.
because
Yeah,
Muslims are out. And then there was a sister, she works in Lucian Hospital. She said, look, the doctors and nurses, they say, look, on Ramadan, we feel so safe because Muslims are around. We park our cars far away, you know, top of Stanton Road.
And walk down.
And we're able to walk because we know you
Yeah.
guys are going to be around.
that's great.
Okay, that's a credit. That's a credit.
I
That's
think we
amazing.
need to implement Ramadan 12 months of the year. Yeah, let's push that. Khair, we wrap up with the usual kind of advice, your lived experiences, whatever, and you've seen in life. Obviously, you become a Muslim. Typical person watching, maybe what is your most important advice you would give?
I think studying, definitely education, you know, the more you learn, I think a lot of things that all religions teach sort of in their best part is like acceptance and humility. And I think education is a real good path to humility. And so doing as much education as you can is only going to help you. Islam is a great religion for that because you can never know everything. There's always more to learn. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about it. For specifically people who've converted to Islam, I would say just take it easy, take it at your own pace. If you want to build strong habits, you can't just force yourself to suddenly pray 5 times a day from the first day of being a Muslim. It takes time to establish prayer. It takes time to establish everything. So don't be hard on yourself. Try and get down to the mosque as much as you can. It makes it a lot easier.
Like a sense of community.
Yeah, exactly. And then if they run little courses like they run here, you know, you might make stronger friendships, or like I've just got chatting to Ibrahim and then he's invited me to play football every now and then. You know, those things are real
And
blessings.
He's studying to read the Quran. He's halfway.
Yeah, with
Inshallah,
Imam
hopefully by
Shakil.
Ramadan, inshallah, hopefully he's reading the
Reading the
Quran.
Salah.
Arabic. You never know,
Who
inshallah.
knows? Maybe in a few years before that one
Oh,
comes.
no, this has been very nice, man.
Yeah,
the
thanks for having
conversation
me.
just flowed
Jazakallah khair.
nicely. You've got a lot of stories to tell, and you seem like a very down to earth person. You know, may Allah bless your family that you've just obviously started,
I mean,
and inshallah more goodness to come from your side, whether it's academia or you know anything else you put your hands on, inshallah.
I mean, thank you.
With that being said, we finish here. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we'll catch everyone on the next one. Peace.